The Miami Dolphins shocked me and the NFL world when they finally made the most common sense move of all time earlier today by firing GM Chris Grier. They say it's a mutually parting of ways. That always means, you got canned. What's next for Miami? We'll talk about that specifically on the future of both Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa in this organization. Plus, we'll touch on the latest trade rumors as well because the vultures are circling. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. And make sure you go follow me over on Twitter. @Nic_Rohloff is my handle. We broke the news first on Twitter when Grier got fired before coming on the channel, going live and making content. So if you want the news before it comes up on the channel, go follow me @Nic_Rohloff. But we showed this tweet on our live show as well as in our instant reaction video, and I want to show it again for one particular reason. It is the fact that Mike McDaniel feels it's almost getting pushed to be the coach of this team of the future. Like, I know this says at least, so it's like the new GM could make its own decision, but I do find it interesting that Stephen Ross is allowing Mike McDaniel to get the rest of the season to basically make his case on why he should keep his job. Like, Ross is almost setting him up like, yo, Mike, dude, you're 2-7. We fired the GM. Like, GM sucked. All right, you had a bad roster. Dude, in your last 8 games, you go 5-3. You'll prove to everybody, hey, it was all Chris Grier's fault. And I just can't get down with that. I hope that isn't the case. And I hope that it's truly up to the new general manager, whoever that may be. I don't know who the Dolphins will hire to be their full-time GM. Who knows? Maybe Champ Kelly does an excellent job as interim and they hire him as the full-time guy in January. Maybe they go outside the organization. Champ Kelly's basically outside the organization because he only joined this franchise about 6 months ago. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But the new GM's got to make the decision on whether to keep Mike McDaniel as head coach or not. And I want to show this now because Tom Pelissero went on the Rich Eisen show today, was talking with Eisen about the head coach in Miami, Mike McDaniel, and how that's going to progress. And he said there is a potential scenario where McDaniel returns as head coach next season because he has worked the best with Tua, maximized his skill set, and since Tua is virtually untradeable and releasable, making up words, he will be on this team next year. And the best plan of action to be competitive is to keep Mike McDaniel as head coach. Well, that would be all fun and games if those two still had a good working relationship. It's evident that that isn't the case anymore. The budding, subtle disses and passive-aggressive comments by each other, to each other, it feels like, in the spotlight of the media. Like, I don't think they should be working together anymore. And if that is your line of thinking on why to keep Mike McDaniel, that's a joke. Like, what is the concern? That another head coach candidate won't take the job because of Tua? That makes no effing sense. Because if you take this job, the whole freaking world knows you're not going to be judged based off the 2026 version of Tua, because everyone knows you're going to move off of him the year after, and then the head coach and GM, if it's a new head coach, can move forward with a quarterback and start their rebuild. Like what are we doing here? Like, that's such a stupid line of thinking to keep McDaniel just because you're forced to keep Tua. I certainly hope that is not the case. But what say you? Does Mike McDaniel need to be fired also? I say yes. What do you say? Pin comment on today's show. As you could tell, though, I am a little agitated at that kind of speculation by Tom Pelissero. Like, it just simply can't happen. And it's the same line of thinking that has kept Miami as one of the most poverty franchises in NFL history, and specifically over the last 20 years plus, where they haven't won a playoff game. Like, if you hire a new GM, whoever it may be, you cannot restrict them on their ability to run this football team. If the new GM wants to come in and can Mike McDaniel and cut Tua, so be it. Fine by me. If he wants to keep McDaniel and cut Tua, fine by me. But I don't think you can push a certain narrative onto him. Now, if he decides to choose McDaniel and Tua for another year and we find out that was on his or she's own merit of their decision, okay, then that's fine. But if you're already setting the conceived notion that oh, McDaniel, we're keeping him for next season because he works well with Tua, and that's a Stephen Ross decision. Like, why would any GM want to take the job? Like, you have to let the GM run the team. You cannot be a Carolina Panthers type owner and David Tepper and be way too overprotective and reactionary. Like, you have to let the people in their position do their jobs. And until it is deemed they are incapable of doing their job at a good enough level, well, then you intervene, which is what should have happened a long time ago with Chris Grier. But let's meet the new GM of the Dolphins for the remainder of the season, Champ Kelly, the interim. He was hired in March of this year, 2025, by Miami to serve as the senior personnel executive. So this is a guy who hasn't been in the organization for really a long time. He started his career in the NFL as a scout for the Denver Broncos, worked his way up a little bit, got to the assistant director of pro personnel before jumping ship to the Chicago Bears and becoming the director of pro scouting. Spent about 5 years in Chicago and then joined the Las Vegas Raiders as their assistant GM in 2022 and was there between 2022 and 2024, where he actually was the 2023 interim general manager. So he's held this position in the past when the Raiders fired David Ziegler and Josh McDaniels midseason. They had Antonio Pierce and Champ Kelly join as the interim GM and head coach respectively. So it's good to me that he has done this before, and you have faith in Champ Kelly, at least able to keep the ship afloat for the most part, right? Like, you're not going to freak out about him being clueless as the interim GM. No, he's done this before, and I really do like that, especially with the trade deadline approaching in about 4 or 5 days, which is where we're going to go next here on the channel. We're going to talk about the latest trade rumors because, boy, were the vultures circling the Dolphins roster, it felt like, on social media as soon as the announcement of Grier being fired was made. But first, we are sponsored by Ethos, and if you or a friend have ever lost someone close to you, it may have you question and want to secure your family's future. Well, Ethos is the best way to do that. Life insurance is a perfect way to make sure you're covered. And right now, you can get a free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. Ethos is an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. There is no complicated process, and it's 100% online. No medical exam required. Just answer a few health questions. And some policies as low as $2 a day, billed monthly. As of March 2025, Business Insider named Ethos the #1 no medical exam instant life insurance provider. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That is ethos.com/NFL Daily. Application times may vary. Rates may vary. Now, is there a fire sale happening in the 305? And I know they're not technically in the 305, but I always like saying it. Could Miami and Champ Kelly be trading people away? Well, I mentioned that the vultures were circling Miami. I mean, it took all about, what, Coop, 10 minutes for the tweets to be fired off about potential trade candidates on this Dolphins 2-7 roster. I mean, Schefter broke the news about Grier being canned and then sends out a tweet 5 or 10 minutes later about how among their trade candidates going into the deadline, Kelly's going to have to make key decisions on Jaelan Phillips, Bradley Chubb, and Matthew Judon. So that was one example. Tom Pelissero did the same thing 15 minutes after Adam Schefter, saying the Dolphins have received calls on but were unwilling to deal in recent weeks on Waddle, Phillips, Chubb, Judon, and Rasul Douglas. But with the 2-7 record and new interim GM, teams are certain to check back starting today. And then Cameron Wolf was like, you know what? I should join in on the party too. Why not? Multiple teams have reached out with significant interest on trading for Bradley Chubb and Jaelan Phillips. Miami had been hesitant, but with the deadline Tuesday and the new GM, they might be willing to make a move. Like, I'm going to use this analogy like 3 times. Like, the body isn't even cold yet, and the vultures are circling looking for food. Now, Am I with them in terms of trading players away? Oh, absolutely. I just find it absolutely ridiculous that these teams and reporters are engagement farming, if you will, and putting out these tweets not even an hour after they fired Chris Grier. How about you talk about the incompetence that Chris Grier has displayed in Miami since 2016 rather than talking about some bum-ass Matthew Judon trade? Okay, let's bring it back in and talk some real football here because we're going to get to some trade talk here. But for the latest Dolphins news and rumors, this is the channel for you. We went live earlier on Friday to break down the Chris Grier firing, and now we're here breaking down more around the Dolphins. Subscribe today and join the family. Let's briefly talk about Jaylen Waddle. Simply put, you do not trade him. And I said this on our live show. If the Dolphins trade Jaylen Waddle at the deadline, Champ Kelly will be dead to me. And he might be worse than Chris Grier. I'll say it. You would have to get 2 first-round picks in return. I think Waddle's trade value is just 1 first-round pick. I think it's a very fair value for Waddle, who's absolutely been dominating, by the way, without Tyreek Hill for the Dolphins. And we already know he's a wide receiver. One, he's 26 years old, and he's got 3 years left after this season on his contract. You do not trade a building block like Jaylen Waddle. And if I were to trade him, it would need to be a big haul return like a first-round pick at bare minimum. But I wanted to talk about Jaylen Waddle because of this tweet from Connor Hughes, who covers the Giants for SNY, saying that Waddle was not going to be moved as long as Chris Grier had a say because he believed that they might be able to turn it around. But with Chris Grier gone, could Jaylen Waddle be on the move? And I just said a second ago, I would hate Champ Kelly forever. I would consider himself a terrorist of the Miami Dolphins. I really would. It just can't happen. You cannot trade Jaylen Waddle. He is 26, an elite wide receiver. And I think for the people who like to hate on Waddle, which is, by the way, Dolphins fans, I don't get it. They like to say he's injury prone. He barely misses any games. He's never had any catastrophic injuries in the NFL. College, yes. In the NFL, no. So, I don't get the issue. And people say his hands, yeah, he's had drop issues, but all wide receivers who get targeted a lot have more drops than others. Waddle is not a player you trade. He is your most valuable asset and second best player. I'd put him right behind Devon Achane. You just can't trade him. But when it comes to the edge rushers, Jaelan Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Matthew Judon, this is a different conversation that we can have. And if we're going to be honest, I truly do believe if I was making the decisions here, Miami would trade 2 of these 3 guys. Now, if you're asking me which 2 would I trade, it would be numero uno and numero tres. That being Jaelan Phillips and Matthew Judon, I am keeping Bradley Chubb for a lot of different reasons. Let's start with the reasons why I'm trading Jaelan Phillips and Matthew Judon. It's because Phillips has got 1 year on his deal. He's on his 5th-year option, unrestricted free agent this upcoming summer or spring. Matthew Judon is a cooked veteran who plays 30% of the snaps for you and is on a 1-year deal. Bradley Chubb, his contract is complicated. $31 million cap hit next season. You trade him now, you save $7 million in cap next year, but have a $23.8 million dead cap for Bradley Chubb. If you wait till June 2nd of 2026, you could trade or release Bradley Chubb, only have $10 million in dead cap, and save $20 million against the cap. That makes a lot more sense. I think it would be a mistake if you ultimately keep Jaelan Phillips. And this hurts me to say this because I love the guy, and I think he's getting better and better week in, week out for this Dolphins football team. But I mentioned it. He's 26. He is a unrestricted free agent. And Miami, with a new GM and potentially new head coach, this is a full new regime. Are they going to be married to Jaelan Phillips and extend him and re-sign him to a 3-year, multi-year kind of big contract, which is probably at minimum $12, $14 million per year? Probably not. So why would you not take advantage of his value being pretty solid right now, whether it's a 3rd or 4th round pick, and trade Jaelan Phillips? I think it would be a mistake by Champ Kelly and company to keep him through the deadline. Couple names I want to throw out there as dark horse trade candidates. I think 2 veteran secondary members, Rasul Douglas at corner and Minkah Fitzpatrick at safety. Douglas has been absolutely phenomenal for the Dolphins. He's been graded out as a top 20 corner by Pro Football Focus. 1-year deal, veteran, not going to return next season. Might as well trade him for a day 3 pick. And I also want to give him a chance to compete for an NFL playoff run because he has done nothing but been awesome for Miami. So I kind of want to reward him by giving him an opportunity to go play in the NFL playoffs. And I put Fitzpatrick on here because he's got 1 year left on his deal past this season. I think he could get a 3rd-round pick in return, at worst a 4th-round selection. He's still a very solid player. He's the best defensive player on this Dolphins roster, and so many teams need safeties out there. The Dallas Cowboys could desperately be looking at a safety, and if they do, why not have them trade you a 4th-round pick? I mean, it would be a no-doubter, in my opinion, or even a 3rd-rounder. Outside of Jaylen Waddle, Devon Achane, and Patrick Paul, there's really no sense in keeping anyone. Now, they're not going to trade players like Kenneth Grant or Chop Robinson, but I would listen on offers if I was given a chance. But Waddle, Achane, and Paul, I'm really just putting the X down and saying absolutely no way. But all the veterans, yeah, they are absolutely tradable in my opinion, and there's no sense of keeping them either. And if the Dolphins do make a trade, we will have you covered. So subscribe today and join the Dolphins Today family for daily Dolphins updates.